Welcome back to our channel, everyone. Today is a fantastic day to dive into the latest Port Charles chaos. We hope you're having a wonderful week so far. Grab your favorite beverage because we have a massive breakdown ahead of us. Let's jump straight into the madness. Okay, so I've been thinking about this and my brain is just doing backflips over the entire Wyndemere sub-basement situation. Like, I stayed up way too late last night just staring at the ceiling trying to piece together the narrative threads here. Here's what's bugging me, or maybe not bugging me, but just occupying all my brain space. The dynamic between Jocelyn Jacks and Liesl Obrecht, it is weird. Like, really weird. The whole thing is just weird, but also kind of brilliant. I mean, throwing these two completely different characters into a literal dungeon together is peak soap opera. But the execution is what has me spiraling. Actually, no, first I should mention how we even got here because the setup is crucial. Let me back up. So Ross Cullum ambushed Liesl in her car, right? Because Jen Sidwell basically told Cassius that finding Britt Westbourne is no longer a priority. Cullum needs someone to finish the project. Britt started, so he just grabs her mother. Which, by the way, is so twisted. The thematic irony of Liesl being forced to take her daughter's place in a forced labor science project is just wow. But then Cullum just dumps an unconscious Liesl into the same cell as Jocelyn. And Jocelyn's reaction is what initially got me overthinking. What did you do to her? She asked Cassius. I think it was in the Monday preview or maybe Tuesday's episode, somewhere around there. Anyway, Jocelyn has been stuck in this psychological nightmare, dealing with Pascal taunting her and Cassius guarding her, and suddenly this formidable legendary character is just tossed at her feet, completely knocked out. The visual of that is striking. It shifts Jocelyn's entire psychological state from isolated victim to, well, to a protector. Or maybe not a protector exactly, but someone who suddenly has a tangible variable in her environment. Okay, wait, let's talk about the actual realization of where they are. When Liesl finally wakes up, the grogginess, the confusion, and then the sheer horror when they both piece together that they are in the sub-basement of Wyndemere. Spoon Island, Sidwell's lair. I mean, Wyndemere has always had dungeons and secret passages, I swear. Every villain in Port Charles history has used that basement at some point. Helena Cassadine probably has her initials carved into a brick down there, but for Liesl and Jocelyn to realize they are trapped right under Sidwell's nose, it completely changes the stakes. They aren't just in some random warehouse, they are in the belly of the beast. What was I saying? All right, the weapons. This is the part that literally made me pause the screen and just stare. Jocelyn reveals the makeshift weapons, the shivs, that Anna Devane secretly left behind from her own captivity. Remember the message on the wall? Anna Devane was held captive here. I was taken on the 31st of October 2025. It's such a brilliant callback. But I keep second guessing how Anna managed to hide those weapons so well that neither Pascal nor Cassius nor any of Sidwell's goons ever found them. Probably doesn't matter, but I noticed it and it kind of bothers me. I mean, do these guards, not do cell sweeps. Whatever, we'll ignore the logistical plot holes because the payoff is too good. So Jocelyn shows these crude makeshift shifts to Liesl, and this is where the characterization just shines. Liesl Obrecht is not just going to grab a sharp piece of metal and start swinging wildly. No, she has the razor-sharp intellect of a mad scientist. She looks at these basic prison shivs, and her brain immediately goes to work. She upgrades them. She somehow manages to modify these crude tools into chemical stun devices. Wait, how does she even do that? Let me overthink this for a second. How do you make a chemical stun device in a damp cell? Did she have something in her pockets that Cullum forgot to confiscate? Some sort of medical patch or chemical compound she always carries? Or maybe she used the cleaning supplies left in the corner of the cell, I don't know. I know I'm overanalyzing the science of a soap opera, but it's fascinating. It's like MacGyver, but with a dark, twisted Port Charles spin. Liesl turning trash into a high voltage or chemical burning weapon is just so perfectly on brand for her. Let's really dig into Liesl's history for a second. She used to run the clinic in Switzerland. She was obsessed with Faison. She has done terrible things, but she has also been a victim. Her brain operates on a completely different frequency than a normal person's. When she looks at a rusted piece of metal, she sees a conductor. When she looks at a puddle of water, she sees a chemical reaction waiting to happen. It's that kind of unhinged brilliance that makes her such a wild card in this hostage situation. Cullum completely underestimated her. He thought he was just grabbing a replacement doctor. An old woman he could force to work in a lab. He didn't realize he was throwing a lit match into a powder keg. Anyway, the point is... Wait, what was the point? Oh, the alliance. The partnership between Jocelyn and Liesl. Jocelyn realizes very quickly that she cannot just rely on brute force. She needs Liesl's brain. Spoon Island is not just a piece of land. It is a fortress filled with traps, pitfalls, and Sidwell's heavily armed operatives. Jocelyn looks at Liesl and realizes, this woman is my only hope of getting off this island alive. It's a beautifully pragmatic realization. Jocelyn isn't just protecting Liesl out of the goodness of her heart, it's mutual survival. It's a symbiotic relationship born out of absolute desperation. Then we get to the actual sequence, the ambush. The build-up to this is agonizing in the best way possible. They know Cassius is coming to check on them. The tension in that cell is thick enough to cut with one of Anna's original shivs. They plunge the room into darkness. I think Jocelyn caused a brief power outage earlier, right? Or they just hid in the shadows. The sensory deprivation of the scene is incredible. You can practically hear their heartbeats. I was sitting on the edge of my couch, literally biting my nails. And then Cassius steps in. Okay. I know I just said the opposite about him being incompetent for not finding the weapons, but hear me out. Cassius is terrifying in his own right. He thinks he holds all the cards. He walks into that cell expecting a terrified college student and an unconscious doctor. He has no idea he's walking to a trap set by a legacy character and a former supervillain. The hubris of these bad guys is always their downfall. But Cassius has that extra layer of psychological warfare because of his face. And let's talk about Cassius for a second. Cassius, the man, is a walking identity crisis. He has the memories, or at least the knowledge of his twisted lineage. He's been playing this psychological game with Jocelyn, trying to break her down, trying to make her feel completely powerless. But he's arrogant. He has that classic Faison arrogance where he believes he is the smartest person in the room. He assumes that because he has the gun, he has the power. But power in Port Charles is never just about who holds the weapon. It's about who has the sheer willpower to survive. And Jocelyn has been marinating in her own survival instincts for weeks now. Actually, wait, let me backtrack to the face thing because this is huge and I almost forgot to talk about it. Cassius is walking around with Nathan West's face. Nathan Liesl's beloved deceased son. If Liesl sees him clearly in the light, she's going to have a complete and total psychological breakdown. Does she see him in the dark during the ambush? I couldn't tell. The lighting was so dim. If she realizes that her captor is wearing the face of her dead son, the emotional fallout is going to be catastrophic. Or maybe she doesn't see it yet. I don't know. The writers are definitely holding that reveal for maximum emotional damage, and I am here for it, but also terrified for Liesl. So, the confrontation happens in the pitch black, a breathless, suffocating showdown in the dark. Jocelyn has to face her absolute worst fears. She's not a trained assassin. She's a young woman who has been traumatized, held hostage, and stripped of her agency. But in that moment, she steps up. She lunges. She uses the chemical stun device that Liesl engineered. The visceral nature of that attack. You can feel the desperation in every movement. She is fighting not just for her own life, but to protect Liesl. Because without Liesl's intellect, they are doomed to die in Sidwell's traps. The way the chemical stun device works, the sudden hiss, the shock, the element of total surprise, it completely incapacitates Cassius. Or at least, it throws him off balance enough for them to gain the upper hand. It's messy. It's not a clean, choreographed action movie fight. It's chaotic and brutal and exactly what a fight for survival should look like. I mean, not exactly, but kind of, you know what I mean? It feels grounded in the reality of their desperation. But then again, that doesn't explain what happens next. They take Cassius down, but now what? They are still in the sub-basement. They still have to navigate the labyrinth of Wyndemere. They still have to avoid Jen Sidwell, who is probably upstairs drinking scotch and plotting his next move. And Ross Cullum is still out there. Escaping the cell is literally just step one of a 50-step nightmare. I keep second-guessing their chances. Can Liesl even run? She was just unconscious. Is she suffering from a concussion? And what about the traps? Spoon Island isn't just guarded by men with guns. Jocelyn explicitly thinks of Liesl as her guide through the pitfalls and traps of the island. Wyndemere is notorious for its hidden dangers. Trapdoor secret passages that lead to dead ends. Security systems designed to trap intruders or keep prisoners inside. Liesl knows this island. She has history with the Cassidines. She knows how these sick, twisted billionaires design their fortresses. Jocelyn is smart enough to recognize that her youth and agility mean absolutely nothing if she steps on a pressure plate or triggers a lockdown protocol. She needs Liesl to navigate the architectural nightmare of Wyndemere. It's weird, like really weird. I want to believe they're going to march out of there and take a boat back to the mainland. But Spoon Island is practically a black hole right now. There's so many variables. What if Pascal comes back? Actually, no, Pascal took Sonny's deal and is fleeing the country. So he's out of the picture. But Sidwell has other guards, and if Cassius wakes up and raises the alarm, they are trapped in the corridors. I mean, think about the parallels here. Jocelyn is essentially stepping into the shoes of her mother, Carly, or even Anna Devane herself, surviving against impossible odds in a Cassadine-adjacent dungeon. It's like a rite of passage for the women of Port Charles, but the addition of the chemical stun devices elevates it from a standard escape plot to a sci-fi survival horror sequence. I keep replaying the scene in my head. The spark of the chemical reaction in the dark, the look of absolute shock on Cassius's face before he goes down, the heavy breathing of the two women as they realize what they've just done. It is cinematic gold. I just hope the writers don't mess up the pacing in the next episode. Sometimes they build up these massive cliffhangers and then cut away to something boring like an ELQ board meeting. If they cut away from Jocelyn and Liesl creeping through the dark hallways of Wyndemere to show us Tracy yelling about shares, I might actually throw my remote at the television. Or maybe not. I do love Tracy, but you get my point. The momentum here is too good to waste. My brain is completely fried from overanalyzing this single sequence. But I can't wait to see if they actually make it past the sub-basement doors.